Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to be working in Notion a little bit to make some changes to my existing stuff here and prepare for the new year. One thing I'm doing this year, as you will know from my journal setup, is that I'm doing all of my planning on a quarterly basis, and I'm incorporating some of the techniques from the 12-week year to help guide me along, keep track of how aligned I am with my goals. I also wanted to expand my current task system to work for other types of tasks because currently it's designed for my game development tasks only. It's pretty specific, but I think I can tweak it a little bit and extend the task database just a little bit. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Right now, it is assumed that all of the milestones and tasks are part of my game project. So what I'm going to do is add a new property that basically just categorizes these tasks so I can keep only game tasks on my game pages and other tasks elsewhere. I call this property initiative, a plan or program that is intended to solve a problem. I thought it sounded cooler than category, so it's just, whatever. It's a word that I used. So I added that initiative property as a select to the milestone database that I have here, which is kind of just like buckets for tasks, kind of like a category within a category. And then in order to expose that property on the task for filtering, I used a roll-up property, also called initiative, that just grabs the initiative from its parent task. So this will just make filtering a little bit easier at both the milestone and the task level. Now for all of the milestones and tasks right now, I need to set them to this Project Caribou initiative that I've created. There might be a way to update all these automatically, but I don't know how, so I just took a moment to go through all of these milestones one by one, and then once the milestone is updated, the task will pull them automatically through that linked property. And with that, I can now set all my existing game task database views to have a filter so that they only show tasks with that Caribou initiative. And once I get up and running with all my 2022 stuff, I'll have an initiative for each of my big groups, which from yesterday's video you might know are software, mortal vessel, simple wealth, media community, and miscellaneous. The next thing I want here is a way to group my tasks and milestones into the quarters and week plans that I'm making. I had to really think about this one because I wanted something flexible, but sometimes when you try to make something too flexible, it just ends up being hard to understand, so I had to do a little bit of thinking on how to set this up. What I decided on was a database called Goal Portions. I'm not married to that name, but it was the best I could come up with. Each portion has a name, a start date, an end date, and a type, and it can be linked to other portions, so I can have one that is a quarter linked to 12 different week portions, if that makes sense. Each portion also has relations to milestones and tasks. I think right now my plan is to link milestones to the quarters and tasks to the weeks. It feels a little messy. I might end up changing this down the road, but for now I think it'll do. I don't want to go through and put all my goals and tasks in right now. I'll do that off camera, but I did create a little bit of test data just to, help me set some other things up. So I created a Q1, 12 different week entries for Q1. I plugged in all the relevant dates and I linked everything up. And then I got started on a template for the content of these week objects. So in Notion, you have the object with the properties, and then if you click into it, you can have more information there. Like each of these objects essentially has a page attached to it. So in here, in any given week, I want to be able to keep track of the scoring that is inherent to the 12-week year. So I want to have a record of what I set out to do and what came of it at the end of the week. So I worked something up, I did some tweaking, I went back and I tweaked some more, and this is what I ended up with. I have a link to all the related tasks at the top, so all the tasks in this week. Below that we have lead indicators and lag indicators. These are fancy terms for basically the work I'm putting in each week, or the work I plan to put in each week, like working for a certain amount of hours on a project or doing a task a certain number of times, something I can commit to and I am in control of whether it gets done or not. These are the lead indicators because they come first. Lag indicators are the results that I am not in control of directly. So these would be things like how other people receive my work, number of YouTube subscribers, or maybe if I have a task to increase testing efforts, the lag indicator could be the number of bugs found after adding those tests. Anything that is not directly connected to my own actions but happens as a delayed result of those actions is a lag indicator. And it's common advice to just don't hold the lag indicators too tightly, because it can be really frustrating when you set a goal to like increase your Instagram following and then like it doesn't happen because you don't have control over that. You can only put in, you can only put in the content, you can only put in the work. It's not guaranteed to convert into, the lag indicator metric. So these are more, to assess whether the work you're putting in is moving that needle rather than taking that as an indicator of how successful you are or how hard you're working. I think that's a good way to drive yourself a little bit crazy. And I have a section here for each of these, with basically the plan, what I hope to achieve for these, and then action is what actually happens. Below the lead and lag indicators, I have a section to just write out the results in text, make it a little easier to read and calculate the score. For now, I am just manually adding the score in the property for score, but I'll be using this section to figure out what that score is. Below that, I have some sections to type in notes for each day of the week. I actually had a Google Doc that looked a lot like this that I used for several weeks in 2021, and I found it really useful to make these little notes about progress, specifically in a digital format, because sometimes I feel a little bit precious about paper. And so having a digital document where I can just type in these teeny tiny, usually useless observations or thoughts, I feel like is really helpful to have. And that's all for the week template. I think it looks pretty good. I can always tweak this as the year goes on. Next, I've gone in and I've done the same thing for the quarter. It's a little bit different. So all the details and at the execution plan will be in the individual weeks. The quarter is really just a place to copy back those results, those scores, and have the whole quarter in one place. So there's a section to list out my goals at the top, a grid type area for scores for all of the weeks. I could potentially do some color coding here to tell which weeks were really good and which weeks were less good. And then at the bottom I have two linked databases, one for milestones included in this quarter and one for the weeks in this quarter, so I can click through and see the individual logs and stuff like that. After that, I added a little linked database to my dashboard. I got some things on this dashboard like my goals, a bunch of game development stuff, some other helpful links to notes I've taken, and this little database up here I've filtered so it will show just the current week's tasks. I may also filter it to only show the ones that aren't done, but I think that'll depend on how cluttered it gets once I fill everything in. The beautiful thing about Notion is how customizable all this stuff is. I can change anything I want at any time, so none of this is set in stone. As a last step, I tried to add something to this goal setting page, but I realized I didn't really know what I want here, so I've just added a linked database for upcoming goal portions. I think I have to change that name. I don't like it very much. But I'll see what makes sense to have here later as I use the system more. Maybe it doesn't need anything. I just don't like to embed databases directly in pages, so I've added a layer of sort of abstraction here where it's not directly in the page, it's linked to the page. To see how everything works, I've added a few knitting tasks that I know I want to do in Q1, just to see how it looks. But like I said, I'm gonna do all the data entry off camera, take my time with it, move some things around if I need to. And at the start of the year, I should have a bunch of things in here, organized, and ready to go. So with that, we're all done. Notion is prepared for the new year. In the comments for this video, let me know what you'd like to learn about Notion. I want to do a more base level video, but I know that there are a lot of all about Notion videos out there, so maybe something a little more focused would be good. A specific thing that you guys are hoping to do with Notion. I don't know. There's so much. There's so much to do with Notion. So let me know what you would like to see. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow with another video, and I hope to see you there. Thank you, thank you. Bye, bye, bye.